Hello, dearest friends, dearest beautiful co creator souls of love and light. This is Nanari, Princess of the Sea, coming to you with a new video. And this video, I feel, is to be one of the most important videos that I will have done thus far. The reason I say this is because it is the encapsulation, the culmination, the coalescence, the co creation of all of my videos, in which you can take all of my other videos and this gets to the core essence of it. This is the core essence of why all the videos I've done thus far have been done. And what this is about the keys to consciousness, the core essences and the core healing that we can really do and be in our lives. This video will have its basis, its foundation on which all of my other videos can be interlinked to. And I'm going to begin with something that just happened actually moments before I was getting ready to record this video. I've actually had this video, was supposed to come through me a couple of days ago, and have it prepared for a dear friend of mine's birthday, because if you see the pictures that are accompanied with this video, my dearest friend Daniel Holman, he just had his birthday. So happy birthday, dearest beautiful soul. And he is an amazing visionary artist. And the art that pours through him, that channels through him from the master artist, is just absolutely astounding. I can so get lost multidimensionally in all of his works, and I'm free from thinking that there's any one work that he's made that I am free from resonating with. And so to honor him for his birthday, for the gift that he is in gracing his presence here on this earth with the amazing gifts that pour through him, I wanted to honor him. And so for his birthday, this video is being done with his artistry. And I invite you to check out his website and really delve into it. And Daniel, this is for you, my friend. So please enjoy in honor. So this said, this video is going to begin with what I had started to say, which was that moments before I was getting ready to record this video, there was a person who came to me who I have connected with and mentored off and on kind of thing, who came to me and was writing to me, which is very indicative of what this video is going to be actually about. And this person was referring to going round and around and again in programming of confusion. And this is what happens, and I will refer back to some of my videos that I've done intermixed into this video as well. This is what I refer to in the whole obsession addictions video that I just did a few videos back. We become in this state of confusion, and we are free from being heart-centered and mind, or universal mind, which is Shikna Ayana, and the mind as in the thoughts that we process within this physical form as well. We're in a state of confusion, and what's happened, which I will delve into this video, is that's been the result of our programming. And it goes to two very deep core wounds of programming, which I have referred to in another video as well, which we'll get to in just a bit. But I wanted to share my response to this person, because this person was saying that there were two people in this person's life, and I'm unaware if this is a male or female that I was talking to based upon this person's screen name on Facebook. That said, the person was talking about the fact that there was one person that this person loved and yet was free from receiving love in return from. And then there was another person who was in this person's life who the love was flowing freely as well. And yet this person that was writing to me was not feeling that love in return. And there seems to be this pattern happening of programming over and over and over again. And so my response to writing back to this man or woman, I'm not sure again who it was this. Indeed, the same thing over and over again is the programming of confusion. And your truest heart, your soul, is multidimensional and is indeed everywhere. Yes, because this person was saying that they seem to be, everywhere multidimensionally. And the answer indeed is always to choose love, because this person in their writing was referring to the fact that they know that even though they go round and round again in these circles, that the answer is always love. And so I was agreeing with this person. Love is never meant to be given expecting love in return, as it is being love and loving itself, which is its greatest reward. From that being free from expectation, then love is given to you. Thus, we then give love freely to all. That said, there are varying expressions of love. In other words, there are varying expressions of love like mother daughter, father daughter, or friendship, or lovers, or sisters or brothers, that kind of. There are different variations of the expressions of love. You would be free from having a intimate lover's relationship with, let's say, your daughter or your son or your mother. So there are varying expressions of love. And if one is unable to give such love to you or you to another in a way of being in union as lovers, then one is to choose to be a vibrational match to the one who will then choose this same path of love as lovers and loving in that way with you. You can still give love to those others, though, as friends. And then I invited this person to do the inner work then of aligning their vibration, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and actions with the one who is the match that chooses this path of giving love in union in the way of being lovers or in a relationship, a couple. So the reason that I read this is because this is the key component of what we're going to be talking about here in this video, and this is why it's titled Meditational Hypnosis, the Keys to Consciousness. Now, meditational hypnosis is something that I created, and I am a meditational hypnotherapist. And it is the combination of meditation, which is the means by which we receive wisdom from the master artist, source, God, spirit, whatever you choose to call this source energy. Because prayer is when we talk to source, meditation is when we receive, when we listen, when we hear the universe speaking to us. And then hypnosis, the word hypnosis is being given a bad rap. And the reason it's being given a bad rap is because hypnosis can actually do a world of good, as many hypnotherapists know. But the reason it's being given a bad rap in the sense of its connotation is because we have put it out there that the elite or the powers that be at hand have been controlling us with mind control and hypnotic type suggestions. And so there's kind of a bad rap out there when really hypnosis simply means to be under gnosis. And gnosis means knowledge. So to be under knowledge, so to know this knowledge, to be within it. So meditational hypnosis is the means by which Source speaks to us in knowing and being under this knowing, this knowledge, which then we transform into wisdom. Knowledge is the information, if you will, or the messages that we receive from the universe. And then the wisdom is the right action that we take. And right action means to be in this resonance of love, taking action as source would take, taking action as love would take. When I say love, I'm referring to source energy. Now, to go back to this person who I was writing to, one of the things I'd like to address before we delve into the heart of this video is the varying expressions of love that are in there. There seems to be a danger, if you will, in the spiritual community in which we come into this consciousness of love, and that's who we are to be, this Christ consciousness, it's often called, this consciousness of love or source or God, spirit energy. And this is beautiful and this is wonderful. However, to be that to the exclusion of discounting any relationships in our lives, whether it be as lovers in union along the sacred path, whether it be, friendships or any types of relationships, us cutting off any types of infinite possibilities is then cutting off our imagination, is cutting off infinite possibilities, and is cutting off who we really are as source energy embodied. And it is free from being a resonance of actually love, because love is inclusive, love includes all. So we want to remain in balance, which is a key to what we're going to be talking about as we delve deeper into this video here, is that it's all about balance. So the reason that we come here to this earth is to experience love in all its forms, all forms of relationships, sacred unions, to love relationships of friendship, of colleagues, workers, sister, brothers, all these kinds of different relationships. And so to be open to that love is to be completely naked and to take the consciousness of love, what source is, what love would do now, and actually make it personal. So, source energy itself is what we would call impersonal. And the natural law, which is source's law, is impersonal, because natural law, is free from, caring about our human emotions and feelings. So, for instance, if you have a child who is going to go by the stove and the stove burner is hot, and the child chooses to put its hand on the burner, the child knows and has some sort of instinct as to whether to do that or not, and will choose either in right action or curiosity to put the hand on that stove. But the natural law of the universe doesn't care whether there's pain in that child if he puts his hand on the stove and it's hot. Okay, so love source in that sense is impersonal. And then on the other hand, it is very personal, because when we come here to this earth, being source incarnate, being the master artist incarnate, we are here to experience personal love in all forms of relationships. So it's the combination of both and in co-creation. Because if we were meant to just be here to experience only the one form of love, which is universal love, or the love which is source, then we could just go back to being in spirit. There would be free from being any need or requirement to come here to earth. We come here to earth so that we can experience in physical form what it is in spirit or as soul we are unable to experience. And that includes the all that isness of all forms of relationships. And what has happened in the spiritual community is that there is such a focus on just being love, as in being source energy love, that what has tended to happen is that you get so wrapped up in being love, God, in that sense, that you forget or exclude to the exclusivity of relationships having to do with love in the terms of romance or couple or spiritual partnership. In that sense, we want to be free from, at least those who have shifted in their consciousness, to be free from having earthly types of relationships of needs being met. And in my articles I've explained the differences between earthly relationships of needs being met and what true spiritual partnership is. So we want to be free from having earthly relationships because we have shifted in our consciousness into more of divine partnership, in divine love and spiritual partnership. And so we want and are to have our relationships reflect that. All types of relationships, from, just deep, intimate relationships with everyone to the deep, intimate relationship that we have in sacred union as lovers in union with another. It's that we are to have this in balance. And so to be free from cutting off all infinite possibilities, to embrace, to be inclusive or in inclusivity, which is a term that I coined in my first book having to do with homeschooling, which is actually a jumpstart into spirituality as well, called lifelong learning. So, in being inclusive or in that resonance of inclusivity, we are including all so that we are experiencing all, the all that isness of why we come here to this earth. And so, there is this danger, as I was saying, if you will, from the spiritual community to delve so much into one extreme or another, where we just love everyone and then we forget about personal love. And what it tends to do is it makes us dehumanized, and it has us cut off all possibility. And I know, because as I've explained into my other videos, especially on the Twin Soul journey, I went through that process. It was triggered by a set of circumstances in my life having to do with Steve's death. When Steve was killed, I basically cut off all possibility of love in my life. And it wasn't until I came into my twin soul almost 7 years ago that he actually opened my heart. So, to live in an open hearted resonance is to be in the resonance of all forms of love. And because our vibration has shifted and changed, that we may resonate with having the deeper spiritual partnership relationships now, because and part of the reason that twin souls are here on this planet now is to actually provide the template for what divine partnerships are, what divine spiritual partnerships are, and true unions are. And we are the forerunners for that template. So in essence, what we are doing is creating the new earth of what relationships are really meant to look like, of true love. So, when we're in one extreme or another, as I have shared in my other videos about the journey of Buddha, that is free from being in balance. And especially in our last life, like my twin soul and I are in our last life, the whole point of our last life is to be in balance. And it is also about completion. So anything that you are free from completing, you will, continue to repeat until you actually complete it. And that includes soul agreements, that includes, anything that you haven't completed from all your other lives. So it's about being in this balance and being in this resonance from being one extreme or the other, either completely shutting off all love and living the life of a monk, and being promiscuous per se. Those are the two extremes. And when we are here in all of our other lives, we experience those various forms of love in those extremes, or non-love, if you will, in those extremes. And then when we come to our last life is all about being in balance. And so we are the forerunners, us last lifers are the forerunners for the new template of balance. So that's what we are going to delve into even deeper now into this video, is how to be in this resonance of balance, so that not only all last lifers here are in this resonance of balance, but that the consciousness of this planet actually shifts into a balance. Because as many of you are well aware, we are in a resonance of what appears to be imbalance right now. So now, to delve into this, since we were talking about the keys to consciousness, for those who seem to be maybe the beginning of the path, and since this is a little bit of a foundational piece, even though we're going to get very deep, I want to speak to consciousness for a moment. Because what is consciousness? I mean, we've, in the New Age community and whatever, we have this term, and, it's talked about all the time of consciousness, the consciousness of humanity, and we're in the shift of consciousness. And, well, what is consciousness? What does that really mean? Consciousness itself is an intangible, unseen force, just like source energy is. Consciousness actually means to know the wisdom within, and to know the wisdom collectively together. It literally means know together. So it is to know, it is to be aware of, awake of. It is to be aware and awake of the wisdom within and together. So it's the microcosm and the macrocosm, as above, so below. Okay, so as above is the source energy, and as below, it's the earth energy. And then as within, so without. So you have as within is knowing this consciousness that you are within you. And then without means knowing this consciousness together. So, consciousness means also the ability to recognize and know the wisdom of patterns and what they mean and how they're occurring, and these patterns occurring within first and then going without or going outwardly into the cosmos, within the world you exist, and then all infinite cosmos and all things. So that's what we are to recognize, and this is how consciousness actually expresses itself into form, is by recognizing patterns and being awake and aware of these patterns. And so a shift in consciousness then would mean being awake and aware of these patterns and then shifting or changing our consciousness of that pattern. And so multidimensional, when we talk about being multidimensional, is then being conscious or awake of all the infinite possibilities, of all the infinite ways of being, of all the things that can possibly be in this universe. And the example I like to use with that is what something I used to do in my satsang gatherings many years ago. And I would simply just for fun, but it inactivated what we call our imagination, because consciousness, one of consciousness's expressions is imagination. And so what I would do in satsang, I would bring simple objects like, let's say, a spoon or a piece of paper or a glass and such things. And if you're looking at the glass just as is, that would be one dimensional, so to speak, or we call it 3D, three dimensional. It's a three-dimensional object of glass. And that's the only dimension that we see, is that it's a glass, that's all it is. Okay? And some people who are unawake in their consciousness, that is all they will see. And if you try to tell them that it's something different, then they look at you like you've grown another head. Or, as my dear friend Sherry would say, like you've gone batshit crazy. Okay? So, this is what kind of happens, and what I was referring to in my last video having to do with the lake house, utilizing the example of twin souls. But this is what happens when we are in one dimension and someone else is in another dimension and they cannot hear us. So, if we see something else, which would be opening up to multi dimensions. So I would ask my satsang group, I would say, my satsang gathering, okay, so here we have a glass. We all have this basic knowledge in this dimension that this is what this is. What else could it be? And then I just keep asking that question over and over and over again. What else could it be? And people would throw out, different answers. And then I would say, okay, yeah, like for instance, okay, it could be a house. You could turn it upside down and it could be a house for an ant. Okay. And so somebody would say that, and okay, that's great. So it's a ant house and a glass. So now what else could it be? And so we would go through all the infinite possibilities and what this was designed to do. And I would say that, okay, we would do this also with the spoon. Multidimensionally, you could say a spoon is just a spoon. Okay. And if somebody sees only a spoon, and see, this is where I was talking about in my last video, I think it was, or a couple of videos, where wars get started, because someone would stand there and say emphatically, this is a spoon and this is only a spoon and it can never be anything else but a spoon. But if you remember from the movie The Matrix, for those of you who have seen it, I'm free from remembering which one it was. I believe it was the first one, when Neo is attempting to bend the spoon and the little girl who's there says, there is no spoon. Okay, so in infinite possibilities, you come to understand too, in multidimensionality, everything's just energy. Okay, so then it can be manifested into whatever form we choose it to be. So even if you're staunch in your position, someone is staunch in their position that this is a spoon and it's only a spoon and we're going to create a war because I'm going to hate you or call you crazy or whatever. If you don't believe this is a spoon like I do, you come to understand that it's free from being about belief. It's about inner knowing, and that inner knowing has to do with multidimensional aspects of consciousness. So, what multidimensional aspects of consciousness means is that in seeing multidimensionally, you see, feel, hear, experience something different than someone else. Now, that's free from meaning that either one of you are crazy. The one who's standing there saying staunchly, this is a spoon and it's only a spoon, that's what's in their reality. That's what they are seeing in their dimension, and that's perfectly fine. As well as if you take that spoon, just like we did with the glass, if you take that spoon, you turn it upside down. It could be a bridge. It could also be a shovel. It might be a very small shovel if you're digging a big hole in the dirt, in the dirt there, but it could also be a shovel. Okay, you can make it into anything that you want to. Okay. And this is free from being airy fairy. And this is, free from, saying that, okay, it's still not a spoon. Of course it's a spoon. Okay. And we have all collectively agreed to this agreement. Now, if we change our agreement, that spoon could be named something else. It could be named a hammer. If we even wanted it to be. Okay, but this is what happens when you open to the deepest levels of consciousness, which is that source itself, it's just energy. It's all just energy. And that we've created these names and these labels as a means of trying to define the vibration of that energy in its condensed form to what we call a spoon or a chair or what have you. Yet we know as children in our imaginations, I mean, I certainly remember doing this as a child, where I would take the chairs in my living room and go grab blankets at one knot, and we would have our own tent, and we would, create that we were in the outdoors and, out in nature when we weren't allowed to go outside, and so we would have our adventure, or I would pretend it was my castle, and I would have my dolls and, whatnot, and we would create this beautiful thing. Was that not real? Was that, oh, it's just your imagination? No. It was very real. We were stepping into that dimension as children. And that's what it means to be childlike, is to have that sense of awe and wonder and bringing you back into the multidimensionalness of what consciousness is of infinite possibilities. So, in the hypnosis community, and in the spiritual community, and we've heard this from the likes of Bruce Lipton and many scientists and researchers and whatnot, there has been, for however long, I can't remember how long it is now, but there's been this concept called the subconscious or the unconscious state and the conscious state. And we equate that unconscious state to our programmings. It's what helps us to breathe. I mean, we're not sitting there consciously saying, okay, breathe. Okay, breathe. I mean, when we're doing a meditation, perhaps, but we're not commanding our body every 2 seconds that, okay, it's time to breathe now. It's time to breathe now. That's the program that's actually running underneath, which is the subconscious mind that we call. And that's what controls our breathing and our bodily functions, and, when we know we're hungry and what have you. So, from the physiological standpoint, that's what the subconscious is what we're talking about there. The subconscious, though, of the actual mind is that place that we call of unawakenedness, so to speak. And it's also sometimes referred to as our dreaming state in our dream time, or even when we daydream or when we're in meditation. Okay. So I'm going to put a radical concept out there and say, what if there's free from being any subconscious? What if the subconscious mind is actually just actual consciousness, just in a different form, different resonance, different dimension, different vibration? And that the unity, the union of both as one, is what is required to make the mountain move that Jesus spoke of. Now, In religion contexts, which religion actually, and I believe I've spoken about this before, it is in my book Song of the Princess, that religion comes from relegare, and relegare means to bring together as one. So in religions, we often have the Trinity, the body, mind, and spirit, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, or Holy Ghost, depending on how you say it. Really, that essence is actually an allegory or a metaphor, if you will, and it's actually really the diamond essence. Because the Trinity often speaks about the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost or Holy Spirit, body, mind, and spirit. Yet I would say that there is a key, master key, that is missing, which the piece thereof actually creates the diamond essence. So, in this context, what we're going to utilize it in is actually the four diamond essence instead of Lemuria, in how consciousness actually expresses itself. These four essences are vibration, thought, feeling and emotion, and action, which then is what the creation becomes then. It's creation manifest in form. So we're going to go through each one of these and explain these. And I'm going to get to that in just a few moments. But for now, what I'd like to speak of is it in a different context. So first, if you picture a marquee diamond, the top of the diamond would be vibration, because everything starts with energy, vibration. And then you would travel down to the left side, which would be the thought, or what we call the subconscious thought, is the divine masculine essence, or the troubadour in archetypal form. The feeling or emotion, which is that of the right side, would be the consciousness, which is the divine feminine, or the archetype known as the princess. And when the two of those become one, with the vibration as our guide, then we take action, which completes the diamond essence. And when we take action, we're talking about right action in alignment with the natural law. And natural law, again, is source's will be done. It is the laws of the universe that source has created. So it's free from meaning that you take action just to take action. And oftentimes that's what the distractions, if you will, of the elite that I've talked about attempt to get us to do, is to take some form of action which is really in flight or fight. So it would be like, oh, okay, let's go march. Or let's go, be belligerent in the streets, or let's go harm someone. No, right action is free from harming anyone. Right action is in alignment with what love would do now, which is what would Source do now in this moment, which is coming from a place of love and being loving. See, we oftentimes think being love or being Source is free from having a loving component to it. Again, going back to that impersonalness. Yes, there is an impersonalness indeed in soul, in spirit form, but when we come here to this earth, or should I say, and when we come here to this earth, it has its components in personalness and being personal. So it's very intimate, it's very gentle, it's very soft, it's very tender, it's very loving. And I would refer to a video that I've talked about many times that you can YouTube search, and I can also provide the link here in this video as well. It's called You Are Here for a Reason by LifeVest. This is what right action is when you watch this video. You will see exactly the perfect example of what right action is. And the right action that is shown in this video is extremely loving. Extremely, and it's coming from love. It's coming from love as in Source itself. So it's important that you be free from confusing the two or excluding one or the other. Because when we exclude being loving or being caring and compassionate, this is what dehumanizes us. And this is what we want to be free from, because this is the component of what the elite, if you will, which is really just the subconsciousness or asleep, supposed asleep part of our being within the collective consciousness that wants to suppress our humanity, wants us to be free from feeling. That's why if you take a look at all of my videos are coming from that place of being real, raw, vulnerable, and from the heart. What does that mean? It means having those feelings and emotions. Now, the imbalance of that is when we are overly emotional, we are too much in our mammalia brain, our female divine feminine essence brain, and that's being too right brained to where we are then out of balance. We are imbalanced. When we're too much in the left brain and we're too divine masculine, we're too logical and too much of thinking and forgetting about love in the context of being loving and kind and gentle and tender and intimate. So we want to make sure that we have the balance of both. And this is why it's key we're talking about this now for this video. So for me in my life, in looking over all of this and utilizing my life as context, I was doing some deep meditation and healing work and shifting over the last few days myself, and in realizing some certain things, coming to realization, seeing with real eyes. And I was recalling about my leaps of faith that I've taken my whole life, and how from an earthly context they have gotten me into trouble sometimes. And the reason is because of living in this world where there are so many people who are free from being holistically synced in holistic synchronization, where their right brain and their left brain, or the divine feminine and divine masculine, is free from being balanced. For me, yes, I've had some moments of variations where I have been out of balance and being one extreme or the other, to divine feminine, to divine masculine, to left brain, to right brain, perhaps. But overall in my life, for the most part, I have been the marriage of vibration and energy, thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and then taking that right action, and that right action being the leaps of faith, and have done so my whole life. And then there have been people in my life who have been the exact opposite of this, because they have been imbalanced, and this is free from being a judgment, nor do I say this with blame. It's just simply that they have not come into holistic synchronicity in their body, and then also in their soul, with the body and the soul being as one. And so that was where my angst came in, was because I was being this while I was being surrounded by the masses who have still yet to come into this balance. And so it would often get me in trouble, quote unquote, from an earthly standpoint, because I would get put down. I was told that, I was wrong, I was bad, I was delusional, I was, you know, uh, they felt threatened by me, and it became a challenge. In fact, my former husband even used to say that it was the one thing that he loved about me, but it was also the one thing he hated about me. He loved it about me because it was the one thing that he knew I was in such balance, and was so following my heart and was in a full alignment in all ways, that he absolutely loved that. And he also hated it in me because he felt threatened by it, because it was the one thing, and he used to say this to me, it was the one thing that I was doing that he never felt that he had the guts to do, that he never had the courage to do. And so it does take courage, especially in the midst of, there being so many who are free from doing this. And so our key is to come into this balance, and then be able to help others to come into this balance as well. So what tends to happen is, when we're in imbalance, either too right brained or too left brain, or too much in the body and not in the soul, or too much in the soul and not in the body, when there's any type of imbalance or any type of contradiction in vibration or energy, thoughts, feelings and emotions, or actions, which could also be termed in the context of our behavior, if there's any contradiction in there or imbalance in there, this is when we are most susceptible to being what we call mind control by the masses. And then the mind control gets influenced by this type of thing. So that's why we are being bombarded, if you will, from an earthly standpoint with so many different things to keep us distracted. And so this is what they are attempting to do, is to program us with what they want us to be programmed with. Okay. So what do we do? What we be, is the understanding that the matrix is the matrix. The matrix is going to be free from being able to change. What we can change is having our own power within us to reprogram ourselves. I just recently was doing a session with a woman who's in the UK. Now, this woman, before she and I had a session, she had written to me and said she was afraid to even walk outside of her door. Okay, that she had anxiety issues, and she has this beautiful garden in her backyard and whatnot, and acreage and stuff, and yet she was afraid to go out in her own backyard, even let alone go out amongst society, because she has this anxiety and angst, for the same reason that, I took those leaps of faith and would always get knocked down. She's a sensitive, and so she's sensitive to those vibrations and those energies. And so, after doing just the one session with her that I have done, within one session, and her choosing consciously to do the work and to continue to practice and do these things that I'm going to share here in the rest of this video, she has changed her life around. She is now going, out all the time, and this has only been in the last couple of weeks. So it can happen, change can happen that quickly. And our shift in consciousness, or shift into the consciousness of who we really are as source incarnate, as infinite amazingness, can occur actually that quickly. What the key is to reprogram ourselves. So rather than allowing the programs of the outer world of effects to control us, we then control ourselves and program ourselves with the program that we're choosing. What already is, in other words, what has already happened in the past, what we call the past, even though in my last video, as you know, I spoke about the fact that there is free from ever being such a thing as a past or a future, that all our lives are being lived right now at once simultaneously. But for the purposes of this right now, we're going to say there is free from being a past, but what already is, in other words, what's already happened, the story of your life, as it were, of, we've all had stories. I mean, I could sit here and tell you about the stories of, abuse I, went through as a child, and, all of this stuff. So we all have some sort of story about our childhood or our teenage years or what have you. And I'm free from downplaying all of that, and I do know that it has its effect on our psyche and on our spiritual ways of being. That said, what already occurred of what is, cannot be changed. It is the truth of what occurred. And you can either accept that it happened or reject that it happened, yet it is the effect. And effects cannot be changed. This is why we as a society try to keep stepping into solutions from the standpoint of, oh, if we just had free energy, everything would be fine. When we grow our own garden, then we don't have to worry about GMOs. Yes, That's a situation in which, yes, you're eating, raw organic living and what have you, and it's beautiful. And yes, so that changes things in that sense. But the what isness of the GMOs is an effect of our consciousness collectively that is not going to change by placing more laws into effect that, you have to label them GMOs and what have you. In order to change something, as Einstein said in his quote, you cannot change something with the same level of consciousness that it was created at. And Gandhi said, you are to be the change you wish to see in the world. So, what we are to do is to actually be the cause, okay? He says, be the change you wish to see in the world. I'm going to say, be the cause. And the level of consciousness that is created, in other words, if you go and try to change the effects are just going to remain effects. You're going to go round and round and round in a hamster wheel. Going back to the cause and changing that cause and rewriting that program is what will then have the effects of that cause, of that change, come into physical manifestation and reality of a new earth, a new way of being, a new creation in your life personally, and then from a global consciousness level, a whole new world. This is what the New World Order, if you want to call it that, really is all about. It is taking and bringing order to the chaos that we have in our collective consciousness right now that is in misalignment with those four essences of the diamond of vibration, thought, feeling and emotion, and action. So it brings this all back into alignment, and the change that we wish to see in the world is really from the cause. Get to the underlying root cause and shift that in your consciousness, and then you are free. So the meditational part of meditational hypnosis is coming into that resonance of the heart consciousness. And the hypnosis part is then the melding of one of the subconscious and the unconscious mind. So, how do we utilize that in being the cause? Well, since we are programmable as consciousness in physical form, which is what I spoke of in my RNA video, that we are programmable and we can program our RNA by being in the here now moment, by being in the Om, the one moment. We are, as consciousness, programmable, and the nature of consciousness is source, which is creation, which is also programmable. So it's like a computer. And this woman who I was mentoring in the UK just recently, this was the analogy that was given to me from Source to give to her, that it's like a computer. And I said it to her this way. It's like when you're running Windows 7 on your computer and Windows 7, for whatever reason, starts glitching. There's a bug, there's a virus, something, is making it go haywire. And you don't just keep running Windows 7 and, meditating on it and hoping and praying that, maybe, someday it'll, go back to working the way it should. No. You get to the cause. What's causing this program to act funny? You find the bug and you reprogram the computer. So sometimes that means doing an upgrade. So instead of continuing with Windows 7, you may need to upgrade to Windows 8. Now, when I explained this to this woman, she said that it was like she was going from the old version of her to version 10. So we gave her the steps together. We co-created the steps for her new program. Because when you create the consciousness program that's optimal, then like a computer runs optimally, the human consciousness, the human part, and the consciousness that is in human form run smoothly. So it's all about installing the correct program. So the programming that we have been given is that from what I talked about in my core wounds video, my core wound video called Dreams Come True. And we're going to get to those two core essences of those core wounds and delve deeper into that in just a moment. But the programming that we have been given has come from all the way back to our first connection with source energy, with the master artist, with love itself. And then it has reverberated in that vibration throughout all of our lives in all dimensions, parallel dimensions, universes, parallel universes. And then concentrated its form right now, most concentratedly, into this life now. And so we have programs from our childhood and from our teenage years and whatnot, and even programs as adults that are still running that are based upon being that child. And in some ways, both from a consciousness level of all of our lives, and then also in this life, we are spiritually immature as a consciousness and spiritually immature in individual form of consciousness in some cases. And that spiritual immaturity reminded me of something that happened in my life about a year or two ago now with a man who I was seeing, and he was in recovery. He was in AA, and his friend was taking his 25-year cake, and so he invited me to come. So I went to the AA meeting, and as luck would have it, although there is no luck at all when it comes to spiritual synchronicities in my life is completely in the flow of synchronicities and signs and whatnot all the time. And the topic for the evening, unbeknownst to myself or the man who I was seeing at that time, and when we went to this AA meeting for this celebration, the topic was on relationships. And it was talking about how when someone who is in addiction of any form, not just alcohol, but primarily alcohol, but in an addiction of any form, when they come out of that addiction and they're in recovery, their mindset and consciousness and behaviors and whatnot are that usually of a 13-year-old. And so it had me, in preparation for this video, made me realize that when we have our spiritual immaturity as we do, that we are often, instead of being childlike, we're more childish in our consciousness, where we are very misaligned individually in our consciousness, and then also collectively in our consciousness. We are much like, the child in that sense of being free from being completely in alignment in those four diamond essences. So, this is where what comes in as the inner child healing work. And this is something that I did myself many years ago. And it was interesting in the events of what happened to me earlier this year that all of that came up and resurfaced in a different context for another level of healing for me to realize as well. And so our environment is a big part of the program. Our environment of how we were raised or brought up, our environment in terms of what we've carried from our other lives here and from other dimensions and parallel dimensions, and things that we have yet to reprogram. So, the reason I put the radical thought out there about the unconscious being conscious, and what if we could see that there is no unconscious or subconscious, is because Bruce Lipton has talked about it in his work, saying something to the effect of that only 5% of the time are we actually running our conscious programming in physical human form, and that 95% of the time we are running an unconscious programming, which would be the program installed. Now, what's that underlying basis of that program installed, of whatever happened to us as a child? Underneath it all is fear. And fear is what contracts our DNA and our RNA. It keeps us stifled. It keeps our imagination stifled. Thus, we are unable to see multidimensionally, and ergo, what I explained earlier, where those who are conscious and are awake, who are seeing multidimensionally and experiencing multidimensionally, are coming to us and saying, "Wow, check this out. And, isn't this spoon an awesome bridge?" And we're going, "Yeah, right, you're crazy." Or, "I see just a spoon, and that's all I see is a spoon, and I don't see anything else that you see, and I'm going to argue with you." I've had that happen many times in my life, being called crazy and whatnot. That's what I was referring to earlier in that context. It keeps us suppressed, depressed, oppressed, keeps us from being the creative being that we are. When we're in love, and I don't mean just in love in the romantic sense, but you can equate it to that for this example. Let's say you're in love with someone. You're expansive. Your whole being and your DNA and your RNA unwinds, and you feel relaxed, and you feel what? Alive. So even if you're in love with a flower rather than a being, or just in love with source, in love with the isness of the cosmos within you for no other reason, when you're in this vibratory essence and resonance of love itself, of that program, your DNA is expanded to the infinite strands of DNA. Your RNA is infinitely expanded and filled with this essence as well. So, how do we program or reprogram? How do we upgrade to Windows 10 or Love 10? Let's install Love. Okay. This is where there has been an imbalance in the community. Now, I started out many, many years ago. We're talking like 40 years ago, I guess now, about when I began my studies young, having to do with self hypnosis. And that was the big thing then. And self hypnosis tapes, cassettes, yes, I'm talking about back then, cassettes and whatnot were out. Okay. And what they were doing was in your time that you put it on, or in your sleep time if you went to sleep with it, you were reprogramming your mind, your being, with these affirmations. So you were working on the subconscious mind, which is absolutely wonderful, reprogramming. The trouble is that there was nothing out there available then to work on the conscious waking state. And then you had people like Louise Hay, actually was a big proponent of this, who came out with affirmations. And during that whole time when You Can Heal Your Life first came out and whatever, she was focusing on the conscious waking state. And that is beautiful. The thing of it is that it takes the union, the marriage of both. And this is the key to consciousness. The key to reprogramming the subconscious so that it becomes conscious, so then all that's left is just consciousness, is when you program both your your vibration, your thoughts, feelings and emotions in both the waking state and also in dream time, and doing so consistently. If what you are desiring for your life and what source's plan and thy will be done, being your will be done as one, if it is free from being the way you desire in your life, it is because of one of two things. Either you have been free from changing your thoughts and emotions and vibration and actions consistently for a long enough period of time so that it becomes second nature, which is actually our true nature, because our true nature is alignment. And what alignment means is being in vibrational match, vibrational harmony, vibrational consciousness resonance, coherence with vibration and energy, thoughts, feelings and emotions, and our actions all as one. So if you are free from getting what you desire in your life, it is because either you haven't completed your reprogramming on both levels, on the waking state and the dream state, or you have done this and you're dealing with the programs of other people who have yet to change their programming and thus are having an effect upon you in bringing you down, so to speak, in attempting to reprogram you that of which you've already programmed. And I know because I've went through that in my life several times in which I have had a program consistently running of love, and then I've had other people come in my life who've attempted to tear that down completely. So, the cause, we're going to get to this cause now in more specific terms, which we've overviewed, but we're going to talk about now deeper. What is the cause? We already know what the effects are worldly wise. Worldly wise are effects like Ebola and wars and chemtrails and things of that nature. And that is the effect of our collective consciousness being free from being in alignment. So our thoughts, feelings, emotions, vibration, and actions are completely in contradiction with each other as a collective. In your physical life, in your own physical personal life, if you are in contradiction in any one of these areas, you will be free from experiencing what it is that you desire for your life. And it may manifest in the form of illness, or it may manifest in the form of having issues in a relationship, or losing a job, or, losing a home, or things of that nature. So we are to go to the cause so that we can be in alignment so that those things are then put back into place again. So, what are the cause? The cause is the underlying automatic programming that caused or continually causes the effects you're experiencing in your life, or the effects we as a global consciousness are experiencing in our lives. When we do our individual own personal lives of shifting the cause, and when we do this collectively, that's when everything changes. Our personal world changes, and then our world collectively changes, because then the effects are changed. The only way to change the effects is to change the cause. It is the universal law or the natural law of cause and effect. So if you go back and you change the things that are causing the effects in your life or in the collective consciousness experience, then those effects will then change. So the causes consist of these four components. Vibration, which we know vibration is everything. Everything is energy or vibration. So what is your vibe? What are you vibrating at? Where are you vibrating? What frequency are you putting out there? Are you putting out the frequency of love? Are you putting out the frequency of fear? If you are looking to, let's say, obtain a job, are you in alignment in your energy and vibration with what it is that you are living as your passion, or are you in the doldrums of just trying to find something to survive? Thrive or survive? Being alive is more or less what, even a better way of saying it. Are you alive or are you surviving? Okay, so what's your vibration? Thoughts. Thoughts are everything that begins first as that energy. And thoughts are the form that begins from that energy that we would call our imagination. Which is why the song by John Lennon, Imagine, is so powerful. Because in it, he's saying, imagine there's no countries. Imagine there's no borders. Imagine that we're all living in peace and harmony. What is that doing? That's stimulating our thoughts of imagination, of taking that vibration, that energy, and starting to coalesce, which coalesce means to unite together, to grow together. So to coalesce these thoughts, images, images of the song, the imagination, imagine, which means something is starting to come into creation. Something is starting to coalesce and come in to the beginnings of something of coming into form. The third component of the cause is our feelings and emotions. Feelings are your intuitive hits, if you will, your intuitive feelings of this thought. So when you have a thought, let's go back to imagine for a moment. When you have the thought of imagine there's no countries, and he says, I wonder if you can. Okay, can you imagine that there's no borders? So when you're imagining that, what intuitive feeling comes up within you immediately? First thing, when I hear that, to me, I hear freedom. Okay, so I feel freedom. I feel that intuitive feeling of freedom, of sovereignty, of what it means for all beings on the earth to be sovereign, because we actually are sovereign. But we can get into that in another video. So the feelings are that intuitive feeling or that intuitive hit that we have about that thought, that first thought from the vibration. And the emotion is, I mean, what I wrote in my book, Stepping into Spiritual Oneness, that I published 9 years ago, as energy in motion. Emotion is energy in motion. So the emotion is the energy in motion of this vibrational energy that's now growing together. It's creating these feelings, which is the igniter or the fire within us, that's placing that energy in motion, which brings you then to the last component, which is action. So when your thoughts and your feelings and your vibration are all in alignment in the same way, with the same thing, free from contradiction, then you are fully in alignment, and then you take what is known as right action. And this is what Jesus really meant of the true union when he said that when we are in that place and we say mountain move, that the mountain will move. Now, Greg Braden has been the closest that has come to about talking about this, because he talks about thoughts, feelings, and emotions all being in alignment. The two components that he has forgotten about, which is being occulted, or what occult really means, which just means hidden. What has been occulted or hidden all this time, and Greg Braden doesn't really talk about, and a lot of the spiritual community does not talk about, which is the forgotten knowledge, which is to be turned into wisdom through this understanding of actually putting it into action, are the two components of vibration and action, particularly action, because the not Greg Braden himself, but the powers that be who are free from wanting us to take action, or only to take action the way they want us to, the way they've programmed us to, which is action like going and marching or dealing with the world of effects and, making laws for GMOs and things like that. Again, those are all distractions, keeping you from taking the real right action, which is the right action of vibration, thoughts, emotions, and feelings all in alignment, in taking the action that source or love would have you take, in alignment with true consciousness of who you really are. So, to put that into context of everyday life, instead of pedaling around worrying about the distractions of GMOs, it would be, what could I create to help humanity, to help myself, which is the benefit of all, which is myself included in this, not what's in it for me, but how may I serve? Being in service to the truth, which is source, and creating from that source energy. So, in keeping, just to give you an example of the difference, if I were in the fight or flight reptilian brain mindset of being imbalanced either in the left brain or the right brain, either being overly emotional and being angry about the fact of GMOs, I would be going out there and trying to help make legislation and whatever, and that's dealing with the world of effects, which will never change the consciousness of this planet. Instead, being fully in alignment in vibration, thoughts, feelings, and emotions, those things being married together, let's say I have the thought or the imagination of this video, that I am going to help benefit myself, because this is what I live and be in my life, and then share it with you to help awaken your consciousness. So that was my vibration. My vibration is that of being love. So from that, I have the thought, hey, let's do this video. And then I had the feeling with that thought of, wow, this is an awesome idea. How much is that actually going to really help people? And then the energy and motion with the emotion was created of this swirlingness of this, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get this video out. And boom, I took the action. And in right action, in alignment with source energy, I am now creating this video that you are now listening to and seeing the beautiful artistry of Daniel Holman for you to shift your consciousness. That is being the cause. That is shifting your consciousness. And when you do that continuously in your waking time, continuously doing the work and practicing, and then also parlaying this into your dream time, the subconscious time. Subconscious time can be your meditation as well. Okay, when you are actually sitting and meditating, utilizing this as a visualization. And as you drift off to sleep, Wayne Dyer, who's given the balance component of this in Wishes Fulfilled, again, everyone's been giving one side or the other. They haven't been giving the marriage. They haven't been giving the union. So Wayne Dyer gives the in Wishes Fulfilled, he says it as when you go to sleep at night, you have roughly, if you sleep this long, 8 hours to marinate. Okay, so as you're drifting off to sleep, what is it that you're focusing on? So you can practice these 4 steps, the 4 diamond essences, as you're drifting off to sleep. What is your vibration? The vibration of love or fear? The vibration of bliss or fear? The vibration of joy and creating and co-creating and cooperation, or being in angst and anxiety? Choose your vibration as you're drifting off to sleep. And then allow the universe to start bringing forth imagination to you, thoughts, okay, ideas, the muse. Let the muse come out as you're drifting off to sleep of a creation. The question you can ask in this part to bring up those thoughts, this imagination, what is getting ready to birth through me in this moment? And then as you're drifting off to sleep with that thought that comes to you from the universe of what's beginning to create through you, you then start to have feelings about it. Wow, this is going to be great. And then if any contradictory feelings come up about this, oh, I don't know if I could do this, just feel them, notice them, and then let them go. Let them go. Be free from delving into the programming of those feelings, because those feelings will attempt to come in to try to dissuade the program that you're rewriting. Okay? So it's like when you get a virus in your computer. What do? You get antivirus and you zap out the bug. Okay? You get rid of that and then the program continues to run smoothly. So then the other 2 components of the emotion or energy emotion and the action, you can then show that action in your dream time state, dreaming about it. That's your action. Whereas on the conscious level, when we're physically awake, and in shamanic tradition, it is being known to say that we are actually asleep right now when we're awake, and we are awake when we're asleep. So it's like a dreaming awake type thing. So you would be dreaming yourself awake and actually dreaming the action and having the emotions, the energy in motion as your dream of this vibration and thoughts. So then you do this consistently and practice or be in praxis of consistently, you will change your world personally. And then when all of us, or the majority of us, or critical mass enough of us are able to do this work and continue this practice, this is when the world of effects or the outer world will then shift. Now, this is a work in progress. Realistically, we can actually rewrite the program of our lives on anything having to do with anything in your life, whether it's issues with a relationship, whether it is trying to come into your life's work or passion, or knowing what your purpose is, or getting a job, or anything that you wish to create for your life, you can use this step-by-step process that I'm giving you here. And in reality, if you focus your two spiritual currencies, which are time and attention, what is that saying? Where attention goes, energy flows, I think is what it is, right? So the more you put attention and focus on it, and the more time you invest, this is why they're the two spiritual currencies of life here on this earth. They're the spiritual currencies. When you put the time and the effort consistently, you could actually change something in as little as a week in your life, in your own personal life, or in as much as 30 days. By consistently practicing this, you will notice changes immediately, and it will get stronger and stronger and stronger. Now, the biggest issue for people is that most people are still living in that earthly context of the 9 to 5 job. Even if you're in the spiritual community and you're still doing spiritual work or what have you, you are free from having the time to invest, of doing it consistently 24/7. So it will take longer for it to occur. And certainly on a mass consciousness level, it's going to be something that is already taking longer. Now, this is free from being a way to program you and say, well, it's never going to happen, or, it's going to take forever to happen, and what have you. No, it will still happen. It's just an evolving process, and you've heard me talk about this in my videos before. It's an evolving process of constantly awakening, constantly healing, constantly remaining awake, and the constant praxis. On an individual level, the praxis will then turn into your second nature, which is really going back to your real true nature, because our real true nature is this actual process. It's just that we had been programmed out of it. So now we are reprogramming and installing love. The key is however long it takes for you. And for some things, like inner child healing work of core wound issues, it may take a while. Be okay with that, however long it takes. The key is, and one of the biggest keys to this consciousness here is consistency, being consistent. And the other key is to be free from contradictions and being love and loving and kind to yourself through the process. To be free from beating yourself up if you slip, to love yourself unconditionally and accept yourself unconditionally. Because the underlying basis of installing love is self-love. Loving yourself, whole, perfect, complete, and beautiful, bumps, bruises, and magnificence and all, just as you are, right here, right now, the total of you, as I've shared many times in many of my videos. Any moment that there is a contradiction in thought, vibration, feeling, emotion, or action, as in our behavior being completely out of alignment to what our vibration, thoughts, feelings, and emotions are, anytime there is a contradiction, this is what takes longer for a shift to happen. And on a global level, this is why it's taking so long, because we have such contradictions in vibration, thoughts, feelings, and emotions right now, and actions, because you have people saying, oh, we want peace, but those same people perhaps are the ones who are actually the soldiers going to war. Okay? They are to take the steps to change their consciousness. So it is up to each one of us. And then once we are conscious and we are actually living and being it, our task is to help awaken others to this wisdom. See, many people think the awakening is, oh, we got to awaken people to the Illuminati and what they're doing, and GMOs and chemtrails and Ebola and the wars and all of that. That's all around us. All you have to look at is look at it every day. It's all around us being programmed and pounded into our heads by mass media, and even now alternative media and other people are now doing this. So actually, the elites don't have to do anything. And I've said this before in my videos and also in my articles. The elites don't have to do anything because we're programming ourselves. Other people are programming us now by the way we treat each other, by the information that we give each other, by our Facebook posts and whatnot. The question is, what program do you want to program yourself with and have others help you in programming? Do you want the program of love or do you want the program of war? Do you want the program of peace and cooperation and co-creation? Or do you want the program of posting killing animals, like a friend of mine on Facebook did earlier today? Okay, it's what you're choosing to program and what you are choosing other people to allow you to program you with. Okay, just like when a virus gets in the computer and it stops working, it's the computer's way of saying, error, 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 we're not going to work, we're not going to work. Okay, fix me. Okay, it's the same thing. When you're receiving programming from other people that is free from being in full alignment with your vibration, your thoughts, your feelings, emotions, and your actions, behaviors, your right action, being in alignment with natural law, the law of source. Spit it out. Does not compute. And this is free from being about putting your head in the sand or ignoring anything. This is simply observing that the virus is there, the mind meme, the mind virus is there, and choosing to use antivirus and then reprogram the program of love. And doing so consistently, then you come to the point where those bugs don't even come to you because your vibration is so within love that anything that comes to you as a virus, just like antivirus, what's antivirus ultimately meant to do? To destroy any viruses that come in and to be free from allowing any in, period, to begin with. And if one does get in, it kills it immediately. So we're not going to kill anything. What we're going to do is we're going to take those viruses, those mind memes, and we're going to transform them into love by constantly reprogramming our consciousness in its two different forms, in wake time and in sleep time. Now, there are many different ways that you can do this. There are different techniques that you can use. In the meditational hypnosis end of things, it can come through voice intonations and voice inflections because the voice is giving conscious direction consciously through the words of the vibration of those words. And it is in the calmness and centeredness and soul patterning of the vibrational intonation that creates subconscious balance. We can do this with tuning forks as well. Music is another way of doing it as well. When I am singing, since I sing in the 432 or 528 hertz resonance, which is the music of the spheres, that coupled with if there's music playing in the background or if there is just me with those intonations, like when I am singing the soul signature song of another, when I do soul signature readings, that is calibrated to that consciousness of shifting the resonance. So it does the subconscious and the consciousness. That's why many people come to me and say how calm and centered they feel after they have heard one of my videos and how well they are able to grasp the concepts and how it's helped them to shift their consciousness. Or even when I'm just typing and writing to someone in a mentoring session or doing a mentoring session with someone, how I've had many who have written to me afterwards or said to me during the session how calm and centered and balanced they feel because of being just in my vibration. It's not even necessarily because of anything I'm saying or anything specific that I'm writing, but it's because my vibratory resonance is so centered and focused on the program of love, is so centered in love, that the vibration is just emanating out from me, and I'm being this light of love so fully that everyone can see it, feel it, hear it, experience it, even just being around me. And so I often receive many letters back from all over the world saying how they feel this experience after they've had a session with me, or after I've written to them in mentoring or some form or fashion of connection with me. Just hearing the vibration of my voice. Things such as crystal bowls can also help with the vibration of the unity consciousness of the unconscious, subconscious, and the consciousness of the brain in physicalness, and then also bringing you into heart centered consciousness along with the mind, universal mind, the Shikna Ayanaha, universal heart. So, those are a couple of the ways that you can also bring about this shift consciously just through vibration itself rather than going through the process. For some people, they need this four-step process they require it that I gave out. For others, they can just utilize things such as sound therapy with crystal bowls, someone's singing voice, such as mine in the 432, 528 hertz resonance, or music that's geared towards that in just sound vibration to actually shift it. Mantras is also another way to do it. That's why in Hindu and Indian philosophy, the mantra is so important, because when you are singing or saying a mantra, even an affirmation as a mantra over and over again, it's that vibrational intonation that can actually shift consciousness. You can use Stephen Hawking's calibration of consciousness. You can utilize crystals themselves, kinesiology, balance testing, pendulums. There's a million one things that you could utilize in this resonance for shifting consciousness. It's just a matter of what modality you choose to complement it in utilizing the balance for balancing the subconscious and the conscious. You can utilize methods such as to whole sync your earthly brain. Okay, you can utilize things like taking your right hand and putting it on your left ear and your left hand putting it on your right ear. Okay, this automatically hemisyncs the brain, brings it into synchronization, holistically syncs the hemispheres. That's what hemisync means, the brain. You can whole sync your heart and your mind together. Mind as in the physical brain, but then mind as in Shikna Yanaha, the universal mind, being connected to the universal mind. This is what things like Heart Math Institute with their EM wave machine helps in that synchronization of the heart with the mind, the universal mind, the Shikna Yanaha, universal heart, which I have spoken about many times in my videos before, which is heart coherence, and I spell coherence COHEARANCE, so as in hearing the heart, coherence. This is where things like Heart Math Institute and their research are so powerful, but again, as well intended as these modalities are, you want to be able to use them as for both and, rather than either or, because we live in a both and universe rather than an either or. They're all different types of techniques. Yoga asana is another way for that. When you're actually in yoga asana, it is free from being just about the posture itself. What the posture itself is actually ultimately designed to do in the ancient traditions is a form of actually hemi-syncing the body. Hemi-syncing or holistically syncing, whole syncing the body and the soul as one, or the heart and the mind, or hemi-syncing the brain, depending upon the yoga asana. So it's not so much about the asana itself and making sure you get in the exact right position or anything of that nature. It's about the recalibration or the calibration of your consciousness in body and soul. Now, the last piece of this that I would like to share with you in the depths of this programming is what I touched upon briefly in my video called Dreams Come True, and I will leave the link for that here in this video description. And it talks about the two core wounds because when you get down to the core essence of it all, the reprogramming of our being to be the soul within the body really comes down to two earthly components of experience. And it runs through all of our lives in all dimensions, in all aspects, right straight back to Source itself. And that is the issues of abandonment and rejection. There are many infinite layers of things to heal and to be healing. And as I said in that video, in essence, there is really free from being anything to heal, only love to be revealed. So, in revealing love in each moment, the core wounds, not even issues, the core wounds of abandonment and rejection is what causes us to be spiritually immature. It also causes us to be physically immature in this life in some cases as well. And you add to that addictions such as drugs, alcohol, sex addictions, porn addictions, addictions to posting things about the Illuminati, addictions to food, addictions to you name it, addictions and obsessions to anything and everything that we could be addicted to, obsessed with the newest clothes or the newest gadget or watching TV for hours on end or, all of these things comes down to a form of self-loathing. And that self-loathing and spiritual immaturity comes from the core wounds of abandonment, separation, rejection. Where it began is at source energy itself. It's the illusion that we created in our consciousness, and it's come out in many stories about our roots, about the Anunnaki, Enki and Enlil. There's Adam and Eve. There's all different, through all the ancient texts, different variations of stories about this, but they all point to the same thing: separation or abandonment, and rejection. Now, this is the indoctrinational programming that says that somehow Source abandoned us, somehow Source rejected us, and somehow because of that, we are separate from Source. Because we have physical human bodies, we are separate from each other. And we are separate from anything and everything in this cosmos, this world that we relate to, connect with, desire, what have you, experience, what have you. That is the grand illusion. And here's the greatest way to heal that programming. When you are doing your reprogramming of your vibration, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and actions, I invite you to really deeply hear this and allow it to resonate so deeply to the core of your soul, it may bring you to tears. You are, as my beautiful friend Sunny Davis says, the child of the universe. It's one of my favorite, all-time favorite songs of his. I will leave the link for it in this video description as well. As a child of universe, as the child of source energy itself, of love itself, you are free from being separate from that which is love. You are love. How can you be separate from that which you are? It is impossible. Therefore, Source, love, God, Spirit has been free from ever abandoning you because it is who you are. You are this love. You are unable to abandon and separate and reject that of what you are because it just is. So I'm going to invite you to reprogram, retell your story of this. And this is for each one of us in humanity. The story is that when we began as Source, we then, instead of separating or abandoning by Source, Source expanded in consciousness to the twin souls and then to the many infinite souls that we are now in human form, animal form, all different forms. It all is an expansion of consciousness. Consciousness, God, love itself, can't separate itself. To give you an analogy, it is like that of when a man impregnates a woman. What happens to that first cell once the egg and the sperm meet in love? It expands. It isn't abandoning the single cell in making 2 cells, 4 cells, 8 cells, 16 cells, and so on and so on. There is no separation. There is no abandonment. That single cell didn't say, oh, I'm going to abandon you now because you're a single cell and make 2. Do you see how ridiculously silly that is? It's an expansion of consciousness that creates a human life. In the same way, Source gave us a gift. And just like the hologram, when it is split, that hologram is still the whole hologram in that splitness, so to speak, which is really not even being split. Again, it's expansion. So we are the many souls, and we are what? Source. Source energy itself. Expanded. And when you feel that really deeply within you, this is the master key that heals all the other keys, all the other pains, all the other issues, core wounds, and wounds of your life. So, for instance, say as a teenager, your parents abandoned you and left you homeless, and you had a girlfriend that you loved, and you lost that girlfriend, and you lost a baby because she was pregnant. Let's say all of those things happened to you and you were living on the streets, homeless. You are feeling hurt, abandoned by people. But even though your parents, physical earthly parents, abandoned you, Source never abandons you because Source is who you are. So you can take and apply that same wisdom, let's say in this example of your parents abandoning you and leaving you homeless, and instead rewrite the program to change your feelings about it. It's free from going to be changing what happened per se, as I spoke about in my multi-dimensions videos, shifting timelines, and other videos that I've spoken about within this. It will change how you perceive it. Thus, instead of seeing your parents abandoning you, what you can see is that they let you go in sovereignty and freedom so that you could expand in consciousness. And out of that, amazing things happened in your life as a result. Perhaps in that moment that it was happening, you were free from feeling that way. But you can rewrite the program in your conscious waking state and your other consciousness of your dream state to reflect the vibration of at one-ment, the vibration of expanded consciousness. And then from that, you have the thought of expanded consciousness and at one-ment. And then you have the imagination of seeing Source embracing you in infinite love, because Source always loves you. Source is always there. And Source brings forth infinite consciousness in infinite ways of other beings in physical form and animal form and other forms to show us that love of Source. Because that's all being in love is. Being in love in terms of a love relationship, to go back to the beginning of this video of what I had written to this person who had made this inquiry in mentoring, that I was responding and mentoring to, all being in love is that you are seeing the essence of Source and expanded consciousness in that person or that cat or that flower. And you are falling in love with you, which you are seeing you or Source, which is you, in whatever it is that you're falling in love with. That's what it means to really be in love. We have a romanticized version of what earthly relationships are of love, but really what the core essence of divine partnership and union with another is union with Source. So when I see you, I see God. That's why God is my lover poem and meditational satsang I have on my videos. That is why I have the divine feminine and divine masculine as one, and the troubadour and the princess. And all of this is infused in all of my videos. It is the culmination of, and this is why I said this video is probably the most powerful video. And this is how we spiritually mature. We will still keep our childlike essence, because as Jesus said, to enter the kingdom of heaven is to be childlike. Being childlike, and I've said this before in my videos, is the awe, the wonder, the essence of seeing as Source sees, hearing as Source sees, speaking as Source sees, aligning with Source. That's the childlike essence. And then ye enters the kingdom of heaven when we're in that childlike essence of imagination and awe and wonder and innocence and amazement of the earth and the cosmos, of Source itself, of that expanded consciousness. And at the same moment, we are spiritually mature then in simply being love. And as someone in my life who's near and dear to my heart has said, it is from the being that resonates the doing. As we be love, then we are called to do what love would do now. This is what is known as inner sovereignty. Sovereignty meaning freedom. Because the truth is, we are already and always sovereign beings, regardless of the outer world of effects, of government this and government that. The one thing they cannot take away from us, although they have attempted to mind control us into, and we have as a consciousness allowed it, but we are now reprogramming our consciousness to have what is known as inner sovereignty. Inner sovereignty is when you are truly living and being the wisdom fully within you of these 4 steps of the keys of consciousness. Being fully in alignment, free from contradictions within your vibration, your frequency, your energy, your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and actions. This is true inner sovereignty. And then when you are free, your task is in a loving way to share with others, just like I'm sharing with you right now here in this video, of how to be this inner sovereign too. And then as enough of us are inner sovereign and being this right action of the video that I spoke about of You Are Here for a Reason from Life Fest, out of that action of love, that is when there's a world and peace on earth is then truly manifested into physical form. It takes a lot of work, light work. Being a light worker, working with the light of love. Be this light of love now, be the change, be that cause. Leave the world of effects behind. Heal within the cause. Be the cause of the light of love. I love you. Espavo.